evening and welcome to the People's Platform. Before we begin tonight's conversation, let's take a moment to reflect on the world in which we live in. From the futility of the deepening war in the Middle East to the growing tragedy in Gaza and Palestine, we are surrounded by man-made conflicts that are leaving behind death, destruction, and hatred. Here in South Asia also, the battlefields are different but no less urgent. Rising authoritarianism, systemic violence against women, climate crises, healthcare crises, indebtedness, growing inequalities, disinformation and AI, the refugee crisis, religious extremism, these are just a few. It is in this backdrop that we are expected to go about our lives. Today's conversation is about imagining something braver than violence: justice, dignity, and the possibility of peace. I'm so pleased to be welcomed by Dr. Christos Christou, International President of Médecins Sans Frontières. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us here.
Of course, and also joining me for the second time, Farhat Mantoo, Executive Director of MSF South Asia. Welcome back, Farhat.
Thank you, Sonali.
Dr. Christou, as a precursor to our conversation tonight, from where you're looking at the world we're living in, where suffering has become normalized and power has almost cloaked itself in impunity, how must we make sense of the world we're living in today?
It's exactly as you framed it in your introduction. There's a world that seems to be pervaded by injustice, by impunity, humanitarian crisis in many places. We see pockets of exclusion of populations that they are completely excluded from access to what we call medical care, access to the essential medicine, the drugs, and we see increased violence in all different levels. We are confronted with this, of course, many years now, but our sense, the last especially 2 years, is that this is getting really out of any control.
I think you very beautifully elucidated, unfortunately, what's happening around in the world. But at the same time, we are at a time in history where we see human solidarity like nothing. Around the world, you spoke about what's happening in the Middle East, you spoke about Ukraine, Gaza. In the backdrop here in Afghanistan and in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, we see a lot of human suffering. But we also see individuals who are willing to stand for them, no matter where they are around the world. Because what we are seeing more and more, that the moral cost of inaction is immense. And as MSF, we believe that is a starting point of us standing there and believing in that we will contribute, and we are contributing to this hope and lack of this moral action.
Moving to South Asia, Dr. Christos, you just returned from MSF projects in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh, which is going through a multitude of crises. Speak to us about that.
Yes, I will start from what Farhat mentioned before about MSF being a movement of medical humanitarian, but also a movement of standing in solidarity to people, standing by the people. And the Rohingya refugee population in Cox's Bazar is one of these very indicative examples. I just came back from there. Last Friday, it was also the World's Refugee Day. And I went there because I was extremely worried about the situation. The Rohingyas are there since 2017. After a massive flow of people, they were there in a kind of a very informal settlement that was growing only in the density of the people living inside that, but was not expanding. So we ended up now having behind the fences, behind the wired fences, more than 1.2 million of people that they are not allowed, of course, to have access to work outside. They don't have access to education. There is the young generation that, especially the last months, have been excluded from even the primary education that was given to them. And of course, numerous, as you mentioned before, of health problems. One of them being the alarming increase of cases with hepatitis C. There are also issues related to the hygiene conditions. There are what we call waterborne diseases like gastroenteritis. We have dengue fever, we have tuberculosis, and plenty of needs that exceed even the medical needs. That, of course, we are not the only ones to address them, but we are one of the very few that we can still be there to respond to these needs, because since the beginning of this year, of course, everyone is aware that due to all the cuts of the funding, and we see more and more countries pulling out from their responsibilities to respond to this crisis, we see more needs, and we are asked to do more.
Yeah. Diseases have no borders, Farhat. Speak to us about how dire it is when states don't take responsibility for excluding people from access to medical care. Healthcare is a basic need.
I'm going to take you back to the first interview we had where we spoke about COVID and how COVID actually taught us that it's not only about securing your own health structure, your own people. It is that there is still possibility of diseases, and it's not just about COVID. Look at climate sensitive diseases. Look at the emergence of many diseases that we felt we have left behind. But I'm going to come back to the Rohingya example, because I think it's important that as MSF, as a medical humanitarian organization, one of the things we believe is that because of the fatigue that the world is experiencing due to multitude of conflicts, famines, disasters around the world, it is very difficult to put attention to some of the context. And Rohingya is one of those forgotten population. We had Dr. Christos there. It is also our belief to bring what's happening on the ground through our work, through our medical action, to the people through these platforms, to tell the world that there's a population that needs to be cared for. So that's something I really feel it's our role of bearing witness is quite critical, and all the more ever in the world today. On diseases having no borders, well, we do see that in the region, dengue fever, which was maybe in Sri Lanka, maybe in India, but now if we look at the statistics of last year, look at Bangladesh. The number of peaks that the country experienced in dengue fever, they were really alarming. So there is a need not only to protect yourself, but also to share knowledge and information. And I think that's where we as MSF South Asia, here in Sri Lanka, are hoping to create a knowledge hub that contributes to cross-learning, that contributes to actually better disaster management, that contributes to better emergency preparedness. Because at the end of the day, we want to put our patients, our communities at the center of what we do.
On the same note, Dr. Christos, Sri Lanka is currently conceptualizing its national health policy. Farhat spoke about the importance of knowledge sharing. From the perspective of having a health policy that is person-centered, that utilizes innovation, what more needs to be done? As the global president of MSF, what are your perspectives on this?
First, I want to say that I was so pleased these days engaging with authorities and visiting the Ministry of Health to look at the priorities, as you mentioned, and having in this new health policy key priorities in an order that you mentioned before. And what attracted especially my interest was indeed the patient-centeredness, the engagement with the communities, and of course those areas where we believe that we can contribute more by sharing our knowledge and our experience are the areas that have to do with responding to emergencies, what we call emergency response, preparedness plans, as well as how to recover from a natural disaster or a crisis. Don't forget that MSF was here when tsunami happened, and this region has a lot of experience in this. So it's going to be a kind of a win-win. We were both going to offer and get back. And that is an area where we have started exploring, and not just exploring, we're doing things. Another key area is is the climate change, which is big, of course, and there I can say a lot. Don't forget that climate change was always a problem, not that much linked to health, until 2 years ago in COP28 in Dubai, when it was the first time that, and I was there the keynote speaker with Dr. Tedros from WHO, to remind to this world and the leaders that health is an integral part of the climate change. And we as MSF see our populations, that they pay most of the price of this, being the victims of the climate change, while they are the less responsible for this climate change. So there's a lot of experience also there now as we're moving, that we are here to share with. And we are here, I keep saying that, because for us, Sri Lanka is not a place where we provide humanitarian aid like all the traditional places we are around the world. Sri Lanka, for us, strategically speaking, is a hub. And we want to further invest and engage with the Sri Lanka community in going together.
What's the case for regional collaboration in terms of research findings, Farhat?
So what we want to do is we want to act as a catalyst. We want to offer a platform, and we want to offer a platform to young researchers. We want to bring innovations, indigenous knowledge to the fore, because civilizations have survived hundreds of years. So there is a lot to learn. So this is an opportunity where we would bring not only problems but also solutions to the problem. And I just wanted to elaborate a bit more on what Christos was talking about, mainly planetary health. Earlier in the year here in Sri Lanka, we organized a roundtable on climate. And the idea was to bring in civil society, academia, Ministry of Health, policymakers all together around the table to actually say what are the problems that we are facing, what are the solutions we have for the world. So out of that, we had 3 working groups that are working together, and the idea is that we have discussion papers that would contribute towards the building of COP30. And I believe the voice from the global south is very, very important for the world to learn from, not only know, not only hear. So it is to learn from, and that is what, as MSF South Asia, we believe that this is what we would like to see, us holding that space for the public health experts, not only in Sri Lanka but in the region. So I spoke about this roundtable conference. We had participants coming in from 7 countries. On September 19th this year, we are going to host our MSF Scientific Days. It is a space or a platform, just like the platform you are offering, where we would have public health research in precarious settings, in resource poor settings, being shared, not only the success examples, but also the failures to learn from each other. But what we want to be is like, we want ourselves to be a learning organization. And we also want to promote that it's okay, that if somebody has worked on something, it's okay to copy. And I'm one of those people who advocates shamelessly copy, because learn from others rather than reinventing the wheel. So that's also something that we would be focusing on when we look at how to engage with the priorities that come out of the national health policy in Sri Lanka. Another area which is quite critical, and that also touches the media space, is digital innovation, technology, misinformation, disinformation, and how it is a multi-sectorial issue. And it's not just linked to health. So how we need to have different plethora of experts coming together to address it. So that's also one area where we believe that as MSF, we have something to offer.
Beautiful. Dr. Christos, you're specifically in Sri Lanka to attend the International General Assembly of MSF, which is currently ongoing. This is a notable event bringing together international delegates of MSF to Sri Lanka. Speak to us about its strategic significance.
Yes, indeed. We hold this big International General Assembly every year, and we bring people from all over the world. Because MSF has a history of 54 years. We started as a small organization with doctors and journalists, and we grew up. And these days we have more than 7.3 million of individuals supporting our action. We have more than 67,000 people working in more than 75 countries around the world. And we have been behind the major crises, the conflicts, the natural disasters, the epidemics, and of course malnutrition. But the world changes. As you framed that at the beginning in the introduction, we are confronted with what we call uncharted waters, and we ask ourselves to see how we can better navigate through this. That is why we are here, to reflect on this work and see how we can do more, how we can do better, and how we can be as an organization more agile to respond to what is ahead of us that seems to be quite unknown and very much unprecedented. This International General Assembly deliberately happened in Sri Lanka this year because of the reasons that both me and Farhat mentioned before. We are here because we look at Sri Lanka as strategically speaking a hub for us. And we bring everyone here for this reason. It is a statement that we want to make, and the coming days we will keep welcoming more of our people. I really want to appreciate how your society has been welcoming us, how friendly everyone has been with this, how easy it made for us to hold this event here, and I hope we will always be like this. And I'm looking forward to all the outcomes that will help also me as the one leading from my position to better navigate the ship in these uncharted waters.
Farhat, anything specific to add with respect to the expected outcomes from this International General Assembly of MSF?
I think it's walking the talk. We are an international medical humanitarian organization, and we have been talking about local leadership. So we have leadership coming in from different parts of the world. So I think that is one beautiful thing to talk about. And also, like Christos mentioned, for us as MSF South Asia, we're very proud that this is happening in our part of the world. And this also within MSF brings more awareness about the issues that we are experiencing in South Asia. So it's also to say that a region where we have history of 54 years, the age of this organization, we also had at the same time the first intervention here in this region. So we're talking about from a place of being the recipient of aid to being a place or a hub which will contribute to global humanitarian betterment. This is a signal. This is a signal both internally and externally. For the internally for the organization, externally for our stakeholders to say, walk the talk. We are talking about equity in leadership. We're talking about making sure that we have diverse voices around the table in our governance. And this International General Assembly is bringing in voices as far as East Africa to West Africa, to Latin America, to Brazil, to Europe, to North America, to Australia, to Hong Kong. So we have all the people in the room who have one thing in common. They have the passion of shared humanity. And I think that is what we want to really make sure that in a time where the humanitarian space is shrinking by the day, we really want to make sure that we stay ready to prepare ourselves for today and tomorrow.
All right. On that note, we go in for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Delaying these state-owned enterprises reforms, we are drifting from a take-off hope by people.
And you all couldn't join hands to solve the presidency in the country.
The presidency,
It's sad,
the
isn't it?
national leadership was on a very specific, platform.
We didn't have a single council in our control before we went into the election. Now we have 151 already.
There was a huge argument where the government is actually curtailing the rights of the opposition leader when he wants to question. Now, where is parliamentary democracy when it comes to all this?
What is the SLPP doing to make itself, more marketable to the people, or at least
to rebuild trust among the people.
So I think, you need the fire, you need the fire in the belly, and you need to take this government on by the horns.
And you are saying, nothing has been proved in court. But then, no, not a single conviction.
No, there are many things have been proved.
I was just responding to what you said.
There are a number of politicians
I was just
of
responding
our
to what you said.
has been put into the jail. There are number of politicians. No. I have never changed my position. I am a politician who is known in any media
30 minutes ago,
for
you said
not
nothing has been
changing
proved in
my
court.
position any day.
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
Vienna Philharmonic Summer Night Concert 2025. Tomorrow at 9:45 p.m.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
ඔබ වයස අවුරුදු 16ට වැඩි නම්
සුවිශේෂී නර්තන රිද්මයන්ගෙන් යුක්ත නම්
ඔබේ හැකියාව රටට පෙන්වීමට හොඳම වේදිකාවයි මේ.
ඔබ සමාජිකයන් 15 අතර කණ්ඩායමක් සමගින් අදම අයදුම් කරන්න.
Sirasa Dancing Star.
නිෂ්පාදක සිරස ඩාන්සිං ස්ටාර් තැපැල් පෙටිය 100 රත්මලාන. WhatsApp 07179977788.
Application with your name, your unique talent, your phone number. To Sri Lanka's Got Talent PO Box 100 Ratmalana or WhatsApp us on 076 599 7788.
දේශපාලනයේ මතවාද, මතභේද, මත විමසුම් සහ මත ගැටුම්.
ජනාධිපති අරමුදලේ සල්ලි අරගත්තු වට්ටියනේ.
විරුද්ධ පක්ෂයේ മന്ത്രിවරු ෂෝ එකක් දාන්නවත් මාධ්‍ය සංදර්ශනයක්වත් නෙමෙයි කතා කරන්නේ.
සර් මෙයාට පිස්සු. කේලම් කියන එක මම නැවතුවා. උතුරේ ලුණු දකුණේ ලුණු කියලා ලුණු නෑ බොස් හරිද? රටේ ලුණු තියෙන්නේ.
ලාංකේය දේශපාලනයේ පෙරලිකාර අදහස් සමගින්
ආණ්ඩුවට විරුද්ධව 50%ට වැඩිය තියෙන හැමතැනකම අපි විපක්ෂය ප්‍රාදේශීය බලය පිටුවා.
අපි ටර්න් එකක් ගැහුවේ මහා මැතිවරණයේදී.
දැන් අපි මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ නෑ අපි මේ පොඩි මිනිස්සු කියලා කියමුකෝ. මාලිමාවේ ඕනිම අයියා කෙනෙක්. කිච්චි බච්චි බිත්ති බුට්ටි ඕනි කෙනෙක් එක්ක එන්න.
නරියා මිදිවැලේ තියෙන මිදි කන්න පැනලා කිව්වලු අල්ල ගන්න බැරි වෙලා කිව්වලු ඇඹුල් කියලා.
දිනෙන් දින උණුසුම් වන දේශපාලනයේ අවසන් කැපුම. Final Cut Unedited. සතියේ දිනවල රාත්‍රී 7:30ට TV1 ඔස්සේ.
Welcome back. I'm in conversation with Dr. Christos Christou, International President of Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, and Farhat Mantoo, Executive Director, MSF South Asia. Farhat, we need to speak about the gender dimensions of conflict, where women are increasingly bearing the brunt of conflict. You were recently in Afghanistan. How frightening are the ground realities? Speak to us about it.
So MSF has been in Afghanistan on and off for 4 decades, and we have lived through various regimes. But since the ban, the already exasperated conflict is much more complex for us from a point of view for our female staff and female patients. I would start with what is good. As MSF, we have continuously strived to make sure that our staff, our colleagues, have a gender balance. So, and I'm glad to say that at this stage, more than 51% of our staff are females. But it doesn't come easily. So they have to navigate daily a struggle. Coming to work is a struggle, because they need to have a mahram accompanying them to work. They need to have the right transport to come to work. The segregation of sex in transport is another one. Then education opportunities. We all are aware through the ban that girls beyond the age of 12 do not have formal education. So that would mean that while we are talking about that we are preserving this 51% of workforce that is female, but if we look at in 5 years time or 10 years time, the people in Afghanistan are going to be in a crisis, and that is a man-made crisis, because they would not have any more midwives, nurses, female doctors to treat Afghan females. So we're talking about from pediatrician to midwives to gynecologist. Because of the cultural sensitivity, you need female treating females. So that is one of the things we are constantly bilaterally advocating and talking about, and making sure that we ourselves do not get comfortable with the ban. Because what we really believe is that that is a red line for us. We do not want us to be in a situation where we do not have female working with us as MSF. Now, to talk about Afghanistan is not a unique example. If you look at different parts of the world, more and more we are seeing that women and children are in the line of fire. Be it Gaza, be it Ukraine, be it Sudan, where sexual violence has been used as a tool of war, where women have been deprived of basic necessities, and in many places they have been targeted. So we are living in a world where the vulnerability that is created is far more intense for women. I'm going to stop with this one, and
exactly,
I'll hand it over
Farhat,
to Christos.
you said that it's not just maybe Afghanistan is the blatant example of the challenges that women have, but also the whole population. It's not about MSF. It's not about people's lives and people's health. And Farhat explained that very well. How does it play out there? But we've been confronted with more or less similar challenges in other places, like in Yemen. I've been there also trying to advocate about the mahram concept, especially when it comes to providing health aid that is so much needed. And beyond that, challenges of bringing and empowering women seems to be still the case in this world, and it shouldn't. We do our best as an organization, at least to fix our own problems on that before we respond to the problems outside. We see the benefits of really empowering women from communities wherever we operate, wherever we are, and we're pretty determined to keep doing that. And we hope that also by this example we will inspire also others to do their best. And I'm sure that many others have progressed a lot, especially looking at internally and their gender imbalances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to add, Sonali, I think this is something that doesn't come out of my work with MSF. I would say women, be it in this culture or in different parts of the world, they're the primary caregivers. And if your primary caregiver is not well, then you know the impact of that on the family. So here we are facing something where we know that if we do not be more mindful of how our policies are mainstreaming gender, then it is something that is not only going to impact women and children, it's going to impact entire families.
Dr. Christos, we speak about the disempowerment and disenfranchisement of women in Afghanistan, but let's look at the developed West. The United States bans women from bodily autonomy for pregnancy, and this is a huge issue. It's very political, but we're talking about a woman lacking autonomy over her own body.
And beyond that, because I will speak as a doctor, for us it is clear that women need to have access to safe abortion care. We have seen lives and lives being lost because of not having access to their safe abortion care and to their choices. And this is what we bring forward every time. We speak as doctors, that we see that in our emergency departments. I have operated women that they try to give a solution to their issue by themselves, and they ended up being in the emergencies. We should not let this happen. And I know that challenges now are even more in what you call the Western world, and especially in US. But for us, everywhere we go, is one of the integral parts of our interventions and projects to ensure that women will have these choices and will be available there, because it's a matter of life or death.
Dr. Christos, there's a growing disconnect between the science of the matter and global leaders who are meant to take these decisions towards the betterment of their people. What do we do about this growing disconnect? Because people, hundreds of thousands of people, are suffering and paying with their lives.
Yes, I can start, but I'm sure that Farhat can say more, because again, as doctors, we are an evidence-based science.
Absolutely.
We see evidence, we see facts, we treat people, we collect medical data, and based on that, we analyze, we advocate, we talk about what we may believe should be also the solution of the problem, because what we do is to respond in order to save lives and ensure that people can stay alive. With this data now, with so much disinformation and misinformation going on, we also have to do something. Is that right?
Yeah. I think Christos says it all, but what's very important for us to recognize is that the best way to counter is science and evidence-based information, and that is where we believe that when Christos was in Bangladesh, it is actually speaking from facts. And anything we speak out, any report you see, it is linked to the science. And that's where we really make sure that we would look into disinformation and misinformation and see how that has harmful effects. How do we educate through health promotion in our project locations, so that people like you and me can dispel and distinguish between what is right and wrong. They double check, they verify. So rather than we doing it for them, we actually try to see how we give them all the information and the tools to be able to do it. So for me, people, literacy around topics, that's one. Not staying silent is another one. And this reminds me of our former president, who would say silence kills. We do not know if our words make any difference, but we know silence kills. So we'll keep on talking about things what we experience on the ground. So with the recent developments you're talking about in the space of policy related to sexual and reproductive health, our teams, whatever they witness on the ground, firsthand, they would speak out of that. So I think it's very important that we speak with evidence.
Farhat refers to the famous Nobel Prize award and speech that we gave, because we have been awarded in 1999 with the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was clear that for us, we have our principles, and one of them is also neutrality. But it is also clear that bearing the witness, we carry the responsibility of the people we treat to talk, to become their voices. That's why we know that sometimes when we talk, we speak out, we may not resolve these issues, but we also know that when we remain silent, silence can kill people.
Farhat, centering planetary health in all of this, how can we look at the intersection of climate change, public health and disaster preparedness from a South Asia context?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I wish I would have all the solutions, but maybe there is a need to reframe the conversations. We keep on talking a lot about the threat multipliers. Climate is one of them. It is urbanization, it is inequities, and technology. So they consider to be kind of multiplying the threats that the humankind is facing. So there needs to be a shift from looking at them as threat multipliers to looking at them as solution multipliers. So when we talk about climate emergency, it should not be seen as something that we are facing. It should be seen as that there is a need of urgency to act now. So this brings the momentum on urgency of us to take action now to preserve and protect what we have. Talk about migrants, refugees. They should not be seen as people who are taking our resources away or who are adding threat to public health. They should be seen as reservoirs of knowledge, because they are the ones who have adapted to the climate change and the disasters. So talk about, I would say, leveraging the social capital. How do you really make sure that the knowledge that is in the community is the first respondent? How do we really make sure the agency is given back to the frontline workers? So rather than parachuting decisions when it comes to any disaster, any public health issue, we need to really make sure that the community is prepared better. So for me, one of the things is like, how I see is that you cannot future-proof things from a protection point of view. You cannot protect things, but what you can do is like you really can empower communities to be able to deal with them better.
So it's a kind of back to the basics, because always the world was based on that, on the solidarity by the neighbors. And even if we claim as MSF an organization that can be there within 24, 48 hours, should a natural disaster happen, an outbreak, whatever, still the people from next door have been there before us. And they offered their hand and they offered their help. There's a lot of I would say experience, know-how by them, and we need to go and enforce that, empower the communities. That should be our roles.
Dr. Christos, the world has watched on as the unabated humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues, and with it we have seen across the world, by and large, moral apathy, desensitization, the othering in conflict, mass lack of empathy.
Yes, since a long time now I have run out of words to describe what is the situation in Gaza, where the brutality of the war is at its worst. But let us just take a snapshot of the last few weeks, where on top of the siege, of lack of any supplies, of people having had to move several times and starving now, they are asked to go to a few designated points to collect the basics, the food, and they get shot, killed in these places. And that says a lot. Again, back to our medical evidence, to our data, to what we have been collected from the testimonies of all these people, we have said that clearly and loudly. We see patterns of ethnic cleansing and genocide. And we want the world to not say that we didn't know that, and take a strong action. And we want to hold accountable all the leaders of this world, because many of them, with their silence, with their tolerance, even with the way that they keep transferring arms to this conflict to carry on, they are complicit. And the history will judge us. That's the situation in this place. Of course, let us not forget that it's not just this. We have the biggest humanitarian crisis since many decades now happening as we speak in Darfur and in Sudan, a war that lasts now is in the third year, and the world seems not to be talking about this. Yeah. And beyond, there are several other places. The chaotic political situation in Haiti, the war still going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ukraine, as Farhat mentioned before, Yemen in a post-war situation, plenty of them. We need empathy, as you mentioned, we need attention, and we need all possible ways to stand in solidarity with all these populations.
And then maybe, Sonali, something that if we believe anyone is going to be immune to this is a myth that we live in. Because more and more we see, if we are not going to talk about it, if we do not raise our voice, we see such instances only getting worse. So take the example of Gaza. It's almost weaponization of hunger and food. That's what we are seeing in last few weeks, with some estimates between 300 to 400 people who were killed just because they were going to get their aid. So in such an environment, what we also need to see is that what is responsibility of each one of us as a world citizen. How do we really make sure that we do not go into moral inaction?
We're seeing a world where there are blatant violations of international law. International humanitarian law seems to be just limited to textbooks and in the rhetoric of international lawyers. We're seeing violations of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, other international treaties that the world's countries are signatory to, Dr. Christos. In such a backdrop where organizations such as the United Nations are being told to do more, to act now, how do we go about converging world leaders and holding them accountable in a meaningful manner, and doing this urgently so that the vulnerable and the marginalized populations who are suffering for no fault of theirs ends?
Yes, you're so right to describe a situation where we see systemic violations. We should not focus on the rules. The rules are there. And as you said, that everyone has committed themselves and signed these rules. And this is the only framework within which we operate. Without this, we cannot go anywhere and provide this aid. The problem is not with the rules. We can still look at them, review, improve, but this is not the problem. The problem is that those that they should be held accountable, they enjoy every impunity at the moment. And behind them, there are countries, there are leaders, and leaders that they have been selected or elected by citizens. So I think that the role of medical humanitarian organization like mine stops where the role of the citizens of this world start, to hold accountable all their leaders for their positioning, be that in Gaza, be that in Sudan, where they completely neglected that, be that in any other of the contexts that we discussed before.
How can we be hopeful, Farhat? And we'll end with that.
We can be hopeful as long as we have even a single voice caring for humanity. So this desire to be caring for your fellow human being is something that has been there irrespective of how nations have been showing blatant disregard to international humanitarian law. And again, I want to emphasize, it's not about the rules and so, it's about the accountability around them. And citizens have every means in democratic ways to engage with their governments, to ask them who sit at international bodies to hold those countries to account, to have a just world. And what can you and me do is believe in humanity and stand by humanity and stand in solidarity for people who you may not see, but you know they exist, and keep on talking about them.
And very simply, we should look at everyone and each one of us equally, as equal human beings. We should never dehumanize the people. That is where we have to start from. We are all equal fellow human beings with equal rights, with equal needs, with equal pain when we see the situation. So they all have to be respected with dignity. And for all of us to stand in solidarity by others. That's the only way that we can start hoping again.
Dr. Christos Christou, Farhat Mantoo, thank you for this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again next Friday. Good night.